New data from analyst firm Circana paints an incredibly grim picture of physical game spending in the United States, with unit sales the lowest they've been since 1995. And yet, global sales data is up. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to wonder what could be different between the U.S. and the rest of the world right now, Lawrence.
Oh, well, it's complicated, Bruce. There's a lot of different factors, although now that you mention it, I guess this is what they meant, Bruce. This is what all the Gamergator chuds meant when they said no politics in games. I get it now. Yeah, it sucks. Get that shit out of here.
We're talking about tariffs, everybody. Circana's monthly report, covered with additional analysis by IGN's Rebecca Valentine, is terrible news for the U.S. games market.
Yeah, drops in spending hit every single tracked category, resulting in a 4% drop year over year, or $5.9 billion spending total. Only $6 billion.
Jeez. So we're about to hit you with a lot of numbers and comparisons. So brace yourself. Both Lawrence and I really love these year-end sales comparison data. And I know it cannot make for the most explosive show, but it is really interesting and it informs a lot of our opinions for 2026.
Yeah, and it really does paint the trajectory of where the games industry is headed. So when you get mad at these big companies making these frustrating decisions that seem to damage the games you care about, unfortunately, this is why. It's these big trends.
So gaming hardware dropped the most, down 27% year over year. That's huge.
That's extremely huge. Yes, that made November 2025 the worst November for gaming hardware since November 2005, 20 years ago. And that's both in terms of total spend and units sold. So people are buying fewer consoles and they're spending less money overall.
That's reinforced by drops across all the major gaming hardware brands. So Xbox Series consoles were down 70% year over year, which sounds about right, which that's what we knew when they raised the price.
Yeah.
PlayStation 5 down 40%. That's actually a lot for the PS5. And Switch hardware, the 1 and the 2, down 10%.
Yeah, so a lot of that sort of defies expectation or what you would hope. Xbox not selling, that makes sense. But PlayStation 5 actually discounted itself back to its previous price, so it's one of the few consoles that didn't actually get more expensive this year. And then, yeah, this is the launch year for the Switch 2, so those things ought to be flying off the shelves. And it has been selling really well so far, but November may have stalled it out.
The reasons are obviously complicated, but there is a real simple one. This is hardware we're talking about, and thus the most expensive video game thing to buy.
Yeah, so if money gets tight, the first thing you're not going to buy is the most expensive thing you possibly can, of course. And on top of that, on top of hardware already traditionally being the most expensive thing, it itself has been getting more expensive. They've been marking things up.
Which is very rare for the life cycle of consoles that we're in currently. Super strange. Gaming hardware hit an average high of $439 per unit in November, which is up 11% year over year.
Yeah. Now Xbox in particular, like Bruce called out, jumped 30% compared to last year and had no discounts this holiday season. I guess they got really comfortable on store shelves and didn't want to leave. But that naturally explains why no one wanted to buy one. You've got PlayStation 5s that are cheaper sitting right next to it, and if the past year or two is anything to tell, that console might treat you a little bit better in the long run.
To say the least. The Switch 2 is kind of a curious case, though. Circana analyst Matt Piscatella notes that the Switch 2 is the fastest selling game hardware in U.S. history. But that has been driven by availability. So Nintendo actually made enough to sell, so they were able to sell them.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. That's what I find fun about economics data. It's all just people making natural decisions with their money, for the most part. And yeah, you can theory craft. If Sony had been able to make enough PlayStation 5s in 2020, they would probably hold that record right now, but that's just the way the market worked out.
So despite the data that the Switch 2 is the fastest selling, games hardware ever, unit sales of the Switch 2 are actually lower than the original Switch during their first November on the market.
The reason there, also somewhat straightforward, the Switch 2 is just more expensive than the Switch was. That's obvious, but even adjusted for inflation, the Switch 2 costs more than the Switch 1 did back when it came out.
I'll never forget all the comments, Lawrence, when we reported on the Switch 2 price, and everyone said they weren't going to buy it. I'll never forget that.
Well, maybe they were right. Maybe everyone else bought it, and now they're still holding on to their $450 in cash.
Good for them. But I don't think so. Overpriced consoles have opened the way for a cheaper alternative with the $250 Nex Playground, the NEX Playground ranking in third best selling in terms of unit sales, which is over the Xbox, by the way.
Yeah, the NEX Playground outsold the Xbox in unit sales. Now, the Xbox costs multiple times what the NEX Playground does, so I think it actually earned more revenue total. But yes, I love this little thing. I love anything that can come in and provide some kind of console experience at a cheaper price. But this is what pisses me off. Even the NEX Playground is starting to creep up in price. It launched at $200, was quickly raised to $250, discounted back to $200 for some Black Friday stuff, and sold a lot of units at $200. But still, you can see the same sort of process already happening where they have this thing and it's market demand that's driving the price up, not necessarily what they can get away with or pricing it to move.
Listings on eBay for the NEX Playground are actually starting to climb too, with multiple listings between $350 and $400.
Damn it. It should be a traditional games console getting scalped like that. Yeah. Remember in 2020 when the world made sense? Well, actually, no. I guess it made less sense than ever back then. And never really climbed back to the middle. But anyway, we got more categories to talk about aside from the abysmal hardware side. Software, games, slightly less bleak, but only slightly.
Okay. This category actually rose 1% year over year. That's only if it includes a 16% rise in subscription spending and 2% growth in mobile spending.
Gross. Yeah, and physical software, this is the really sad data point here. Physical software had the worst year in US retail it had since 1995, which itself is the first year Circana even started tracking market data to begin with. So in 2025, you had almost as many people buying physical video games at retail stores that you had 30 years ago. That's a shame. That's sad.
Which is weird because you'd think that would happen in like 2020 or 2021 during the pandemic, right? Physical sales would go way down then, but nope. I think everybody's just spending less money overall this year.
Yeah, going to less stores, maybe buying only online, buying Roblox gift cards instead of physical games. Very sad.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of sad, here's the cherry on top. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 still cinched the #1 spot in November, which is their 18th year in a row to do so. But despite that, Circana reports that the franchise saw a double-digit drop in full dollar game sales compared to last year. A pretty big drop-off, but still enough to stay on top of the pile.
Just for November, though. For overall, we'll get to. And there are places where it's not all bad, specifically anywhere that's not the United States.
That's kind of a trend these days, I feel like. So this is a different analyst firm and a different report, but analyst firm Newzoo predicts 7.5% growth in the global games market by the end of 2025, hitting $197 billion total. And now, yeah, we are talking global. We're not talking about the US anymore, the whole planet.
Yeah, so between mobile, console, and PC, PC is the fastest growing segment, increasing 10.4% year over year. Lawrence and I have been saying it pretty much all year that PC really is exploding, and it's very exciting for both of us.
Yes, and that's why we repeatedly suggest that the next 5 to 10 years PC is going to be a great place to be, because if something is growing, it gets investment, and investment means cheaper goods, bigger products to try to attract that business. That said, while it is the fastest growing, it is still technically the smallest chunk in between PC, console, and mobile, but only slightly. Actually, PC and console are kind of neck and neck right now. But mobile, still far and away the biggest one in the room. The mobile space still contributes over half of all games revenue, and itself still grew a very respectable 7.7% year over year.
Over half? That's crazy. Mobile only over half of the all games revenue is insane. Newzoo's rundown of top earning games on PC is very different than the US console space too.
Yeah, this is fun. Battlefield 6 is the top earner in the global PC charts, followed by Schedule 1 and Arc Raiders in second and third respectively.
Wow, that's crazy. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 actually does not appear in the top 10 at all. I was looking at other sales data for Black Ops 7, and I think it was for the year Battlefield 6. Again, this could have been physical or digital, but for the year Battlefield 6 was at the very top, and then Black Ops 6 had outsold 7. And I was like, oh boy, that's real bad, yeah.
Yeah, I guess in the US, buying Call of Duty every year at a store, it must just be a ritual for a lot of people. It's just something you do. I've heard that from some game developers and stuff in analyzing US spend, is that every American gamer buys 3 games. They buy Madden, they buy Call of Duty, and they buy something else. And that something else is usually a big, like, open world action RPG, an Assassin's Creed or something like that. So most game developers were angling on that third slot. We want to be the game people choose to buy as their third game. So yeah, it seems like Call of Duty's still wedged in there as an American ritual, because we don't love changing our minds, do we?
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of this is kind of common sense. It's especially, living here and seeing the headlines and seeing what people are, where all their money is going. There's not a lot left over for discretionary spending, especially with that elective spending getting more expensive. Just like, we can do something else. I will say though, I mean, we touched on it briefly. It still excites me to see PC as a growth platform, but the timing is so frustrating. All this momentum is behind PC as a platform now, but also all of its hardware is getting snapped up by data centers. There's the RAM crisis now, and if it's not that, I'm sure it'll be something else. I saw Nvidia's even going to cut back their gaming card sales next year because they're making more money putting them all in data centers. So it's a bit tragic. We had an opportunity here for PC, which is itself an extremely scalable platform, to not only be that cheaper console, that cheaper point of entry, but also be the premium experience. It could be both. It could solve all these problems if only they could get some cheap RAM. And I'm very, I don't know, there was so much interest in the Steam box as being this cheaper or maybe even competitively priced console alternative. It was, unfortunately, we've had word that it's not going to be like aggressively console priced. And with the way things are going, it may not even be affordable as like a decent mid-range gaming PC. But I can see a future where that might be the case, and I hope we get there.
Yeah, sadly, throughout the entire year, we've seen prices go up for everything. Everyone is talking about how prices are up for literally every single thing, except for maybe eggs. But everything else has gone up, and a lot of that is due to tariffs. Tariffs really threw the economy into turmoil back in February, March timeframe when they were announced by our Mad King, and they have just ended up being another tax on American citizens here. And it's one of those things that now we've seen sort of the entire year of tariffs, and we know what it looks like, and it's bad. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for other countries. It's bad for the U.S. It's bad for, anybody that wants to spend their money on a Nintendo Switch 2 or on another console or even another game. So this is not looking good the way that it's playing out. And we started seeing some tariff exemptions even from the Mad King recently, because he was like, oh, wait a minute, coffee's up 20% or whatever the fuck it was. Maybe we shouldn't do tariffs on coffee. Thanks a lot. So so hopefully they'll start, scaling those back a little bit so that they're not an extra tax on us, and we'll have a little more money to spend.
Yeah, we're getting pinched all around, Bruce. Some people, Piscatel has brought this up a lot in his analyses. You got to use the smart version of the word. That there are groups of people that have discretionary spending that have just been able to absorb all this tariff price increase. And yeah, you're right. It's a tax. It's a transfer of wealth. Some people are blessed enough to ignore it. A lot of people are not. And I think they're the ones that are, unfortunately saying, well, we can't afford a gaming console, especially now that it's gotten more expensive. It's getting less attainable. Maybe this other cheaper one can be a good gift. But yeah, times are tough out there. We got to pay more for everything, and it sucks. That's why, I don't know, every time we have to talk about economics data going south, as it often has lately, or layoffs or anything like that, it just makes us so grateful that we get to do this show. We get to sit here and talk about market data. So thank you for choosing to watch this show. Those choices are what enable us to do what we do. And we want to shout out a special viewer out there, so hopefully hearing this, DJ Kento, wherever you are, thank you. DJ Kento is a very special gamer who decided to support us directly during these trying times via our Patreon, which you should check out if you haven't yet. All of our stuff is posted there for free, plus a daily hand-selected meme just from me to you. With these hands, I cup them, I put them gingerly inside, and I cup them and I hand them over to you. Then you can do whatever you want with it after that, but that's what we do over on the Patreon. Please check it out and play some video games. It's the holiday season. We got to treasure what's important, and that, of course, is video games. So please enjoy them from us to you. Happy holidays.
And we'll see you on the free video games, clearly, because that's where everybody's playing. Fortnite, Roblox. Oh, and Lawrence, I keep forgetting. I keep seeing a lot of comments saying I'm in jail.
Oh, yeah.
I'm broadcasting from jail or whatever. I'm moving. That's why there's nothing on the walls. Everyone's like, "Where's Bruce?" I moved. So I'm in the process of setting up the office. We'll get there.
I just see that there's a sting in the background, and that's it, just on the floor. That's peak bachelor behavior right there. Got my swords. I got my air mattress. I need nothing.